young and energetic, we counsel Manish Kumar.
Good morning beyond infinity. How are you guys doing? Okay, I can see a lot of excited faces. So thank you so much, Captain Purneshwar, for such lovely words. You put a lot of pressure on me now. Anyway, okay, how many of you are wondering why am I wearing dark glasses? I'm sitting at home, right? I'm not out in the sun, but I'm still wearing dark glasses. Anyone wants to know? Okay, let me tell you. It's because the future is bright, right? So anyway, let me take it off now. Now, how many of you actually realize that the future is bright? Raise your hands. Everyone is raising their hands. Liars, right? Some of you do. I agree. But not everyone. You know, and you need to be honest with yourself. So how many of you, when you face a rejection, you get depressed? You start thinking, oh, what will happen now? Right? When someone says, yeah, where have you got stuck? Close friend. How many of you the thought comes, is this guy right? Have I actually got stuck? Now be honest again, honest assessment. Right? And you start wondering, will it work? Is it going to work? Right. So let me tell you a story which one of my upliners had told me long back. Right. So there used to be this cobbler, right? And he was a poor guy. You know what a cobbler is, right? Someone who mends shoes. And for years and years, he would come in the morning. There was a box on which he would sit, and he would mend shoes and do his work. Now he was poor, obviously, did not have a lot of money, and he would keep feeling sorry for himself. He would keep thinking, when will I get money? When can I have a good life? You know, life is not treating me right. And it went on and on and on. Every day he would come in the morning, sit on his box, do his work, work hard, get paid whatever little he got. And that's how life was going on. Right. So one day, a stranger came to him, right? And he looked at him, he said, you're sitting on that box. What is inside the box? So the cobbler said, nothing, it's just a box. He says, but have you ever looked? How long have you been sitting on it? And he said, 30 years. Every day I come, I've been using this. He said, but at least open it and see what it is. Right? So finally he said, yes, okay, let me do it. And he opened the box and he was shocked. It was full of gold bars, there was precious stones, right? And he became rich, right? Now, this was just a story, but a lot of us are like that cobbler. We are sitting on a gold mine, but we don't know, right? I was that cobbler. Before I started this business, like Purneshwar said, time was a challenge. And I used to think about it. I used to crib. When will I have time for myself? I have hardly any time for family. Life is passing me by. I'm not being able to do the things that I love doing because work keeps increasing, right? And my referrer, he came to me with this business opportunity. He tried explaining, but I was not interested. So that box was there. I just didn't know it, right? And eventually, better sense prevailed. And I started and I realized, yes, this box is full of gold. And life changed, right? Now, a lot of you today are that cobbler. The difference is you're already sitting on that box, right? You just don't know it. You don't know what you've become a part of. You're not proud to be part of this industry. You haven't understood the magnitude of this industry, what it can do, how much it can change your life. And every time someone says, "Oh, you're scared," every time while making an info call, you think, "Arey, I hope this guy doesn't ask me whether it's MLM." Why? You're scared because you yourself have not understood how big it is. Because if you had, you wouldn't have been scared. You would have been proud to be part of the network marketing industry, right? So today, my job is to give you some insight into the industry, You may have heard it before, but empty your cup. Maybe a reiteration is required, right? For some of you, it might be something new. But my objective is that by the end of the session, some of you at least are proud now. You see the big picture, you understand, you become part of something really, really grand, right? And you stop being scared of people judging you and people asking you, is it MLM? Is it right? So this module requires a PPT, which is good because most of you are salaried. And we are so used to training with PPTs that without PPT, we don't understand much, right? So let me start my, just give me a moment. Yes. Okay, can you see? Is my screen visible? Uh, Side by side? Can you see me and the? Okay, great. So let's understand the industry. Why did VP Sachin, why did Vijay the, why did we all choose to become a part of the network marketing industry? What is it about network marketing that excites us? Why is it the future? Why is it so big? Right? Because today, most of us, we are proud about our jobs. You know, this company, I work for this company, this is my designation. We say it very proudly, right? And then we also say, oh, side me, I've started something on the side, right? Because we haven't understood, right? So now let me give you some background. Now, which is the fastest growing major economy in the world? So amongst the bigger economies, it's India, right? And it's growing at 6.6%. Projected for this year is 6.6%. It may not sound like a very big number, but trust me, it is. The global economy is growing at 3.2%. So it's more than twice the global economy, right? Now, an economy growing at 6.6% in today's age, what does it mean? It means there is money. So there is demand for products. People have money to spend, which means a lot of products are being manufactured, a lot of service is coming up, right? There is consumerism, which means a lot of people are required to produce these goods, deliver these goods, provide these services, which in other words means jobs are being created, right? There's a lot of job opportunities because the economy is growing 6.6%, right? But let's look at reality. What is the scene with job growth? Now, just some. So today, I mean, most of you are aware of what the scenario is, right? You have companies doing layoffs. HSBC has just decided to lay off a big chunk of their workforce. TCS, big time layoffs happening. And I can go on and on. Lots and lots of companies, people who are in the HR, you know what is happening. Recruitment is more or less at a standstill. Very less hiring happening, right? The focus is more on getting rid of redundancy and reducing jobs. Now, on one hand, we are saying economy is growing, 6.6% growth, right? On the other hand, jobs are going down, or at least it's stagnant. Does it make sense logically? No, it doesn't. So let's understand why this is happening. And to understand this, let's go. Let me take you back, history, right? So let's go back to 200 years plus back. So about 200 years back, you know, less than 10% were employed. 90% plus were people were self-employed, right? So you had everyone. So the only employees were people who were associated with the government. So if there was a monarchy, if there was royalty, right, you had people who were in service to the royals, you had some soldiers, you had. So these are the people who were employed, salary. But the rest of the population, they had their own businesses, small businesses, but everyone was doing something or the other. For example, there was a potter who would come and make pots, right, and he would sell it to in his local town. There was someone who would breed horses, right, and then he would sell those horses. Someone would make a carpet, right, and that is how life was progressing. And people, if you look back, I mean, most uh, records state that people were happy. They had their flexibility. They were their own bosses. Life was going on, right? And then came the Industrial Revolution, right? So a lot of inventions happened. Machinery were invented, the steam engine was invented, electricity was invented. And as a result, with the advancement of technology, big factories came up. So efficiency in production came up, right? So these factories using the latest technology, they started mass producing products. Now, how did it impact the population? So let's say there's a guy, let's call him Ramu. So Ramu is manufacturing carpets, right? He makes carpets. Now he's a small scale person. He just does it on his own or involves his family in manufacturing and selling. And let's say in a month, he produces 10 to 15, 20 carpets, sells them. That's how his family is running. Now then came an industry, a big factory of carpets. Someone came and set up a big factory. Let's say Kalin Bhaiya came, set up a huge factory. And with that new technology, started manufacturing 100, 200, 300 carpets a day, right? Now, who do you think would have had a lower cost of production? Obviously, the factory owner, right? Because it was mass production. So the cost of production went down significantly. Now, what happened to Ramu and his business? He could not compete. He was not competitive. The price that he was selling it and the price that Kalin Bhaiya was able to sell it was significantly different. So people stopped buying from him, right? He may have fought it, he may have tried, but he realized eventually that he will not be able to compete with the factory. And he started losing business, right? Now, what options did he have? If he tried any other business, it was the same scenario in any business. Big, big producers came in every segment, and the smaller players could not compete. So a shift started happening, right? So Ramu probably joined Kalin Bhaiya, his factory, became an employee. So Kalin Bhaiya said, "Don't worry, you come work for me, work for 8 hours a day or 9 hours a day, and I'll tell you what to do. You keep doing, and I'll pay you so much money at the end of the month." So a shift started happening from self-employment to a job, you know, a salaried setup where you get a fixed amount. And that's when mindset started changing, right? So in our growing up years, we kept hearing, study hard, get a good job, secure. Why? It originated from there. Because at that time, self-employed people became uncompetitive. So it was safer to get a job, right? And which is why we started believing over the years that that's the best option, at least we are secure, right? So which is why I tell our parents' age, that is what happened. Then another revolution happened about 30, 40 years back, the IT revolution. Now, what happened in the IT revolution? Efficiencies went up further because technology went to the next level, right? For example, MS Office. Now, all of you use MS Office. But before MS Office, how do you think people lived? So let's say an accountant. You had a team of accountants sitting, doing calculations, preparing balance sheets, right? Now, with the advancement of technology, with MS Office coming in, Excel sheet coming in, the job of 10 people was done by one person, right? Because it became efficient. You know, we look up just before we look up, it would have taken ages to do that activity. Now it's done in a matter of seconds, right? So in every sphere, you know, productivities went up. Like telecalling, for example. I come from a sales background where we relied a lot on telecalling. But before the IT revolution, you know how telecalling would happen? A telecaller would get a database. You remember those analog phones? You dial a number and you dial the entire number, and then maybe the database is incorrect. It says this number does not exist. Then again, a lot of effort dialing another number. This route, all lines in this route are busy. So productivities were really low back then. Now, with technology came automated dialers. There's something called as a predictive dialer. So you all get calls from credit card companies, from, you know, personal loan, home loan. How does it work? A database is fed into the dialer, and the dialer automatically dials. You remember, you realize at times, you get a call, you pick up the phone, and the other person is not even online yet. But the moment you pick up, that's when the other person comes. Now, how does it work? The dialer keeps dialing on its own. And the moment the call gets connected, you know, the person comes on call. So, can you imagine efficiency went up exponentially? So, a job that was done by five telecallers started being done by one telecaller, right? ATMs. You remember before ATMs, I don't know how many of you are from that era, but people similar to my age, closer to my age, to withdraw money, you know what we had to do? We had to go to a bank, and there was a line of teller counters. Every branch had lots and lots of tellers, and we would take a token, stand in line, stand in a queue. I remember to withdraw 500 rupees, I've had to wait half an hour in the line, and then we would go and withdraw cash. Right now with ATM, the need for tellers was no longer there. When you walk into a branch today, how many tellers do you see? Probably one or two tellers at best. So again, the productivity is kept shifting. Now the job is done by an ATM. You don't really need to human interaction to withdraw cash. Right? So net banking, again, a lot of transactions. I don't need to visit a branch. Everything happens online. So the point I'm making is that a shift started happening, from a fixed remuneration to a variable remuneration. So companies realized that I don't need a guy sitting, I don't need to hire a person who will sit 8 hours a day when the same job can be outsourced to someone who has that technology and can do it much faster at a lesser cost, right? So a shift started happening from fixed cost model to a variable or a fixed plus variable model, right? So you see a bank branch, I told you, there were people in the branch earlier who would call up, try and sell credit cards. Now you don't see that happening. The whole activity has been outsourced to a DSA. A DSA comes, does the same job, charges the bank on a variable model. I have sold so many cards, pay me this much, right? Drivers, all of us had drivers at one point in time, right? The need for a driver is no longer there. See, in Mumbai, I live on the 17th floor. I mean, I still have a driver, but actually, if you look at it, I don't need one, because by the time if I have to go somewhere, I call up my driver, get the car, and by the time he gets the car and I go down, in that same duration, I can book an Uber and the Uber guy will arrive, right? My driver, 8 hour shift, he probably is productive for 1 or 2 hours at best. An Uber guy can do the job of five drivers, is far more productive and obviously earns more because he's more productive, right? So this shift, like HR, there was a time when companies had huge recruitment teams. Companies recruited people to recruit more people, right? So you had people sitting in the HR department doing various functions, recruiting, payroll processing. Now all that is being outsourced. You have a consultant who does that for the company. So the HR team has shrunk. Some companies don't have an HR team anymore. Everything has been outsourced. Payroll process, everything has been outsourced. Do you understand what I'm saying? So a shift started happening, and as a result, you know, it takes some time, but jobs have started shrinking. So today you see a lot of layoffs happening, a lot of recruitment on standstill because it's not required. And yes, at the same time, opportunities also started getting created. So instead of working for a company, let's say if I'm in HR, I'm hiring people on behalf of the company, right? I realized that the opportunity is to do my own thing, right? So on one hand, we are saying economy is growing. On the other hand, jobs are not growing, right? So where is the opportunity moving? It's moving to self-employment, entrepreneurs, right? So like I said, the same thing a person does on a variable model for the company rather than being employed by the company. So that's a shift that has started. But efficiency has come in, so you don't need that many people to do what was required earlier, right? Now, this is just the beginning. The worst is yet to come, right? The next disruption is by AI. and all of you are aware of AI, you've been reading on AI, and we are starting to see signs of job disruption by AI, right? But the actual disruption is expected to start in 2027, right? So Tesla, for example, it can be driverless. You don't need a driver driving a Tesla, right? So today you are ordering an Uber. The Uber comes with the driver. Maybe a decade from now, you'll still order an Uber. The Uber will come without a driver. You can go anywhere. What does it mean? Jobs will shrink, right? You've heard of Amazon Go? Now, Amazon Go has been launched, and it's similar to, on a smaller scale, we've also seen it. You have big baskets in your building. So how does it work? You go to the vending machine, you scan it, you know, with your app, the big basket app, and the door opens, and whatever you pick up, it gets automatically billed to you. No human interaction, right? Similarly, in Amazon Go, these are stores, and these are not manned. There's no one in the store. Like normally, when you walk into a store, you'll find people at the cashier counter. Someone will be moving around. Someone might talk to you. In Amazon Go, there's no one. It's like dead. You just walk in, and whatever you pick up keeps getting automatically billed to you, right? And the only time person is required is maybe to come and replenish the product, which also robots will do going forward, right? So in fact, I've been now these are just, you might think these are frontline jobs as of now, uh, accounting, customer service, these are getting affected. But going forward, I've been talking to a lot of people, and a lot of jobs are going to get affected in the future. And I was surprised at with some of the people I spoke to. Right? For instance, also I'll give you some more examples. I recently went to Bangkok, so we've started our preparations for BI, right, which is in April. So me and Joy, we were in Bangkok, and at the airport. Now earlier when I would go to Bangkok, you have these big machine kind of carts which clean the airport, right? And earlier I used to see a guy sitting there and driving it and cleaning. This time I saw the same machine, but without a driver. It was cleaning on its own, right? I went to Australia recently on a vacation, and I landed in Sydney, and there were hardly any immigration counters. Actually, there were, sorry, let me correct myself. There were a lot of immigration counters, but very few manned with the immigration officer sitting. Because most of it, electronic passport, you just go, everyone's using that today. You just go scan your passport and your immigration is done, right? There is this, so the building that I live in, so a lot of people from the film industry here. So there's this friend of mine, he's amongst India's best sound designers. So he's sound engineer, sound designer. So he's done it for Mirzapur and these shows. And I was surprised. He was a little worried one day when I was talking to him. He said, AI is eating up our jobs. He said, I'm still at a senior level. The frontline sound designing, now AI is doing it better, far more effectively at fraction of the cost, right? And he said, I'm worried because the AI has not reached that level yet that it will replace my job. But he said, give it another 5, 10 years. I'll be redundant. AI will come and do a better job than me. Right? Obviously, I'm going to show the plan to him. But another friend, he's a script writer, right? And he's very famous. Huh? He's written the script for, he and his partner. They've written the script for movies like Ram Leela, Toilet Ek Prem Katha, and they won the IFA award recently. He was telling me, he said, AI has started writing scripts instantly, like immediately. He says, what we take 6 months, a year to write, AI does it in an hour. He said, thankfully, today the quality is not that good, right? Today, it can't compete with the human. But he said, as AI is becoming more and more intelligent, as it's getting access to more data, understanding human emotions gradually, he said, in 10 years, for all you know, AI will be able to do a better job at zero cost, right? So you get the drift where I'm coming from. The next disruption is AI. Now, AI is also, it's not all doomsday. AI will also create more jobs, right? But net to net, jobs will shrink because robots will come and do everything. Artificial intelligence, like Banking sector. I'm from the banking sector. Today, in HDFC Bank in Bangalore, you have some automated, I've forgotten what it's called. Uh, so customer care, a human doesn't do. Customer walks in, meets a robot. I think it's called ERA or something, intelligent robotic assistant. And the robot helps the customer. Digital banking. When you call up a bank, customer care, a lot of times, most of the times, you don't even need to talk to a customer care executive. Why? It's AI doing it for you, right? And they're fairly efficient and they're getting better year on year. A time will come when absolute customer service, nothing is required. AI will be managing it. So you're getting the drift where we are moving, right? So now what is the solution, right? There has to be a solution, right? Problem we've identified. What is the solution? So the shift from salaried to entrepreneurship will become even more faster, right? People will have to look for opportunities in entrepreneurship. Why? Because they don't have an option, right? So what is the solution? What kind of opportunities can a person look at? And that's where network marketing fits in perfectly, right? But before I tell you a little about network marketing, again, let me give you a little background because people don't understand what network marketing is. We think it's we've heard things from people, right? We think it's some different business. So let me explain how network marketing came into existence, right? So, so when factories came in, industrial revolution happened, mass production happened. So before that, a small producer was manufacturing in smaller quantity. And what was the catchment area? He would sell to his town, or some trader would come from another town buy his product. So it was limited to a specific geography, right? But when factories came in, large production started happening, huge scale. Now, obviously, you can't sell it only in that location, right? So eventually, you have to look at a larger geographical area. So that's when distribution models started evolving to get the product to the customer. So the first model that came in and which is still there today, the FMCG model as we know it, or multiple channel distribution strategy. So there's a company manufacturing a product, let's say toothpaste, right? Colgate, let's say. Now, Colgate is mass producing in one particular town, right, where the factory is located. Now, how do they create demand? People should want to buy Colgate, right? That is one. Second, how do they get their products to the customer, right? So that's where this format came in. So first, so you have a company which has different departments. So Colgate has a manufacturing department. Now the head of manufacturing has been given a brief that this is the quality standard, this is how it needs to be manufactured. So his job is to ensure that the products are manufactured according to the specifications. Then there is the marketing department. Now, what is their job? Their job is to pass the communication about Colgate to the entire target segment all over the country, right? And it has to be presented in a way where people have to be excited. They have to feel that, if I use Colgate, my teeth will shine, teeth will be very healthy. It's the best product. Right? So first of all, let me bust a myth. There is no such thing as a best product, right? I'll give you an example. How many of you feel iPhones are better than Samsung? Raise your hand. Yeah, a lot of people. How many of you feel Samsung is better than iPhone? Yeah, again, a lot of people. How many of you feel OnePlus is better than these two? Again, a lot of people, right? How many of you feel Pepsi is better than Coke? A lot of people. Okay, who all feel Coke is better than Pepsi? Again, a lot of people, right? Okay, how many of you feel, forget Pepsi, Coke, thumbs up is the best? Lots and lots of people. But I'll tell you a reality which will shock you. If we do a blind test, if the brand is removed and you're just poured, the drink is poured in a glass and you drink it, most of you will not be able to identify what is Pepsi, what is thumbs up, what is Coke, right? Shocking? It's been done, tried, tested. Most people are not able to even identify. So why do we feel thumbs up is the best or Pepsi is the best? It is because of the perception that has been created by the marketing team, right? Why do you drink thumbs up? Maybe because Salman Khan said, "Boss, thumbs up." What did he say? I don't remember. Taste the thunder, Tufani Thanda. He said something, and then we felt, "Oh wow, this has more fizz. This is better. This is, you know." So perception is created. So the marketing department, their job is to create awareness and present the idea in a way that it appeals to the segment and people want to buy the product. How do they do it? They hire a celebrity. This they create an ad construct. Different dialogues, different where the celebrity will come and say something about the product, and people are very happy, and all of us get influenced. Huh? So when Madhuri Dixit said, "The secret to my beauty is Lux," so we see Shweta, Rena, we see Shayanti, they got very excited. They started using Lux. Now they're all, both of them are very beautiful. But the problem is they genuinely believe that their beauty has to do with Lux. Right? That's not true. Right? We see Shantanu, he saw an ad. Amitabh Bachchan, what I forgot, the hair oil that he advertises. Right? And do you know he's bald? He actually doesn't have hair. He wears a wig. But he endorses a hair oil. And we see Shantanu saw that ad and he started using that. I had to tell him, bro, Amitabh is bald. Don't fall for it. Right? He didn't believe me earlier, but right. We see Joy. He saw an ad by of Fair and Handsome. Says, mard ho ke auraton wali cream. And he was taken aback. He threw the cream that he was using and he started using Fair and Handsome. And he genuinely believes that he'll become fair and handsome. Right? I didn't have the heart to tell him, it's not going to work. So I said, maybe, you never know. So anyway, point I'm making is, so ads say demand is created. Now people want to buy Colgate, right? Now, where do they come? They can't come to the factory to buy Colgate, right? So that's where the retail distribution comes in. So there's a sales and marketing, sales and distribution team. Their job is to ensure that the product reaches the customer, right? And in order to reach the customer, they've created a very complex distribution format. So from the company, the products go to the CNF, the carrying and forwarding agency. From there, it goes to the distributors. From there, it goes to the wholesalers, then the retailers. And that's where you buy your Colgate from, right? Now, this model is very efficient. Why? Because the kind of reach it gives you, no other model can. Like every nook and corner of the country, every village, you you go to a small shop and you'll have Colgate there. And demand is created through advertising, and you know at the point of contact, it's there. So you buy it. So it's an efficient model, right? So that became the core model. That's how factories started reaching out to their customers. Now, the only challenge, there are certain challenges with this model, right? Because now this is still the largest format, but it is now degrowing. Why? Because the costs are extremely high. 60 to 70% cost is something called as the MAD cost, marketing, advertising, distribution cost, right? So the money that you pay to Salman Khan, you pay to the ad agency, and then to transmit that communication, you have to keep spending money through different TV channels, print media, below the line, you know. And then the demand is created. Now, look at your distribution, right? CNF, distributors, wholesalers, everyone's eating into the margin, right? Now, distribution is set. Now, I'll tell you another cost. The distribution is set. Do you think the distribution can run on its own? It can't. It has to be managed. And managing a distribution is a very complex job, right? So, which means the company will have to have a huge sales force. So, every city in India will have feet on street, it'll have a territory sales executive, and their job is to keep the distribution running efficiently. So, which means so many employees all across the country, which means you need offices from where these guys will operate, right? And then, so the overhead cost. And then to keep your distributors and your salespeople motivated, you do trade shows, you take them on offsites, take them to Bangkok or wherever, right? So all these costs that I just mentioned typically ends up eating 60 to 70% of a product's cost. So efficient model, but the challenge is that very high cost model, right? And then the service sector started growing, right? Now this model did not really suit the service sector. So another model evolved, right? Which is the franchisee distribution. So how does it, I'm sure all of you understand how franchising works. So if I'm a manufacturer, I have a service or a product which I need to get to the customer. What do? I appoint a franchisee for every territory. Basically, I partner with someone, I get the person on board, I train, mentor, groom, and under a set of guidelines, I authorize the guy to sell my products or services, right? So, in other words, I appoint a franchisee, and these people sell my products and I pay them, right? Now, again, this has become a very, very effective model. Reason being, you are not having to pay too many intermediaries, right? So now the margins are better, it's shared between the manufacturer and the franchisee. But the bigger strength of this model is that it's a very high control model. You realize that, for example, you walk into a McDonald's, right, in Mumbai, and you order a Maharaja Mac or any burger. And then let's say you go to Chennai and you go to a McDonald's again and you order the same thing. You will get exactly the same product. You know, the bun, the patty, everything will be exactly the same, right? Your experience, which side is the cashier, which side is collection, which side is the washroom, everything is very, very uniform, right? The color combination, the layout, the uniform that employees are wearing. So, which is why franchising became a very successful model. The customer knows what to expect, and that expectation is met again and again, irrespective of geography, irrespective of where the person goes, right? So, it became a very, very successful model. Today, roughly 35% of the world's organized retail is happening through franchising. That's how successful it has become. But now we are seeing that franchising is reaching a stagnation, right? Why? Because there are multiple channels to franchising challenges, but the biggest challenge is the high setup cost. So, a lot of people want to be entrepreneurs, like let's go back, salaried people want to shift to entrepreneurship, looking for options. Now, franchising is only there for a person who has that kind of corpus. Like, I'll give you an example. To set up or to take a franchise of McDonald's in a city like Mumbai, the startup cost would be about roughly $1 million. Not too many people have that kind of funds to start a business, right? So that is the bottleneck to franchising, which is why it's kind of stagnating. And then came our model, right? So network marketing or micro franchising, as it's also called. It's basically, why is it called micro franchising? Because it's based on the lines of franchising. You know, the fundamentals are the same, but it's at a very micro level. Hence, it is far more inclusive and far more evolved, and it is a little different. So network marketing, what happens? Let's say QNet gets me on board as a distributor, for example, right? I become a customer and a distributor, and QNet tells me that you sell or refer our products, and whatever sales will happen, I will pay you some whatever commission. But over and above that, you know, whatever sales or referrals happens through the channels created by me, right? Directly or indirectly, I also get paid for that. So it's a win-win situation, right? Win-win from a company's point of view, win-win from a distributor's point of view. Let's look at it from the company's point of view first, right? For QNet, they don't need to spend so much money on marketing, advertising, distribution. It doesn't matter, right? Let's say they have a product called QVI. Now, a competitor to QVI is Club Mahindra, for example. Now, Club Mahindra, how do they work? They spend a lot of money. They have offices all over. They have employees who call you up, request you to come. They have full page ads in Mumbai Times and Delhi Times, Mirror, right? They're spending a lot of money. And that's how, and they're offering freebies to people who are buying Mahindra, right? Here, it's simple. You buy something, you're happy, refer it to other people. Word of mouth, personal touch. So we will not spend money on marketing, advertising, distribution. You sell the products for us, refer it to us, and take a part of the commission, take a part of the profits. right? So for QNet, they didn't have to spend so much money on marketing, advertising, distribution. It started slow. So a drawback to this model is, since you're not using mass media and all, it takes time to pick up. But the strength of the model is that the model is such that every distribution point is creating multiple distribution points. So the distribution keeps growing exponentially year on year, right? Which means in 20 years, you don't even need any advertising. Nothing is required. Your distribution is so comprehensive that you've created your own ecosystem now. You can sell whatever products and services you want. Now, this is from a company's perspective. Now, let's understand it from a distributor's perspective, right? So, let's say I'm a distributor. Like I said, not only am I getting paid for selling or referring products for the company, but whatever turnover happens through the channel created by me, directly or indirectly, I also get paid for that, multiple levels to infinite levels, right? So, it's a very, very scalable model. A distributor who works smart and hard initially can make crazy amount of money, which is why network marketing has become so big, right? But again, there are challenges to every model. So there is a challenge to network marketing also. And the biggest challenge, it lies in the fact that the strength of franchising, that is the drawback to network marketing. So the strength was that it was a very high control format, right? Here, the company does not have that kind of control, right? So let's say unit has got me on board. I get A, who gets B, who gets C, who gets D, and eventually some Mr. X comes into the system. And let's say Mr. X is not very ethical. He wants to make money. He doesn't care. He gives wrong commitments to people. False information. And who gets a bad name? The company. People think that QNet is propagating such practices, which is not reality. QNet doesn't even know what Mr. X is doing. They will find out because there'll be escalation and they will take corrective action. They will terminate the guy's distributorship, but the reputational damage is already done, right? So as a result, so dilution keeps happening after every level and eventually leads to negative customer experience. So perception is not very positive. That's the big challenge with network marketing, right? Now value is being created, everything, but perception is not very positive, right? And then came e-commerce. Now e-commerce, all of us engage in e-commerce, right? It's our favorite model, and e-commerce is the future. Why? Because it's a very, very efficient model. As a customer, you have direct access to the company. You go online, you see something you like, punch in your card details, make a payment, they ship it to you. So other formats in the long run will not be able to compete with e-commerce. How do you compete? Cost? There's no way you can compete, right? A customer has a direct interaction. You're eliminating the middleman. You remember the first model, how many levels were there? Everything is now not required. Look at the money that the company is saving, right? You are eliminating the need for physical infrastructure. You can survive on just-in-time inventory management. So cost, you can't compete. Second, convenience. It's a very, very convenient model, right? Because today, if I have to buy something and if I have to go 5 kilometers to buy the product, it's a nightmare. Mumbai traffic, take out my car, crazy traffic, find a parking, get into the store, look for the product, stand in a queue to make a payment. Now, thanks to e-commerce, I don't need to do any of that. In fact, I don't remember the last time I actually walked into a store to buy a product. In matter of minutes, the product is ordered. In a matter of days, it's delivered. That is convenience. And convenience is a very big factor affecting consumer behavior going forward, right? And some benefit, strength of e-commerce, which people still don't realize, is the reach that e-commerce has. The reach is phenomenal, right? I'll give you an example. So I come from a small town, Muzaffarpur, and in my growing up years, I did not have access to a lot of products. Why? Because it was not available in Muzaffarpur. It was a small town, right? Now today, thanks to e-commerce, it does not matter where you live. Muzaffarpur, Mumbai, village, because anyone to everyone at the click of a button has access to pretty much everything, and it's delivered to you no matter where you are, right? And hence, e-commerce is the future. Now, having said that, while we are saying e-commerce is the future, we are still struggling with e-commerce, right? Most e-commerce companies have not even broken even. Right? Why? There are certain challenges. So a lot of people are still not tech savvy. So my dad sitting in Muzaffarpur, no matter how good a deal, cannot take advantage of that because he's not very comfortable online, right? A big chunk of the net savvy population is still apprehensive. People still feel that if I punch in my card details online, there could be fraud, right? A lot of people have, you know, they think, okay, I can see the image, but what if the product that reaches me is not exactly like that? So that apprehension is there. And besides, you know, that physical touch. So in a normal retail scenario, if I walk into a store to buy something, there's a comfort I have, right? I walk in, if I like something, or I'll ask the shopkeeper or the salesman, and he'll say, "Ah, don't worry, best product, right? I'm there, don't worry." So that human element is there, which is missing in e-commerce, right? And the loyalty is very low. Why? Because it is such an efficient model now, you know, slightly contradictory. So I may have bought 10 things from Amazon. Or let's say, let me tell you first in a retail, let's say if I have to go to a store to buy an article, let's say apparels, I go to Shopper Stop, for example. I go there a couple of times, some comfort develops. I know where to park my car. I know where to, I know which section has what. Maybe I've got to know some salespeople also, right? The human element. So I end up becoming loyal. But in e-commerce, I may have bought 5 things from Amazon. The sixth time when I'm purchasing something, in a matter of seconds, I get the comparative pricing. This much on Amazon, this much on Flipkart, this much on. And if Flipkart is offering me the same thing at 100 rupees lower, I'll buy from Flipkart. So zero loyalty, right? So companies are struggling there, right? Which is why most of them have not broken even. They're spending so much money on search engine optimization, on not just attracting customers, but retaining customers, offering promotional offers, discounts, right? Now, our model, if I look at QNet, it's a mix between, we've taken the best of the two futuristic models, two models which are the future, e-commerce and network marketing, word of mouth, right? Word of mouth, we all know how effective it is. Like if you want to understand how effective it is, think of COVID. Very effective. From one person, it's reached two, from there, four, eight, 10, and very soon the whole world was infected, right? And e-commerce, global reach, instantly. Anyone sitting anywhere can buy your product, it gets delivered without any physical interaction. So, which is why I'm very, very excited and I say the future is bright. It makes sense. It's a futuristic model, right? Now, having said that, all is not rosy. Now, there are certain challenges, right? So, I told you the biggest challenge is perception. Most people, and when I say most people, including myself before I started, I did not have a very positive perception about network marketing, right? So, people have different perceptions. Some people feel it's a housewife's business. Some people say it's a get rich quick scheme, which will fold up. Some say it's for losers. Some say, people have various perceptions. And the problem is, now there's a reason why those perceptions are there, but the problem is listening to their perceptions, hearing it from them, we get affected. But you need to understand something. Who are these people who say such things? They could be anyone. They could be your neighbor, your security guard. It could be a doctor, MBA engineer, whoever, right? But when people say something negative, you need to question one thing, right? Is this guy who holds such a view, is he a subject matter expert when about network marketing, on network marketing, right? Because who should you ideally take opinions from? Now, let's say tomorrow you have a stomach ache, very bad stomach ache. Who will you go to for help? Will you go to a chartered accountant? No, why not? He's a very educated person. Because he's not a subject matter expert. He can help you with your taxes, he can help you with a lot of things, but not your stomach ache. For that, you will go to a doctor, and that to a gastro, right? Specialist, because that guy understands it. So always take opinion from an expert, right? So when I started the business, my wife was not very positive about it. She says, why are you getting this will not work, right? Now, she's an intelligent person. She's an MBA from XLRI, one of the best institutes. And I was affected initially. But then I thought about it, is how much does she understand network marketing? Is she a subject matter expert? If it was anything to do with HR, I would have blindly trusted her and said, yes, you're the subject matter expert. But she was not, right? So always take your opinion from a subject matter expert for anything important, right? So let's understand, what do the subject matter experts have to say, right? Because when I was doing my research, I came across a lot of very, very positive things from. So all of you, you know this gentleman, Mr. Warren Buffett. He is the smartest investor known to mankind, right? He has invested over the stock market for decades and decades, made crazy money. Now, some of you might say, what's the big deal? Even we have made money on the stock market. Yes, a lot of people make money. So you can get lucky, you make a lot of money, and there's the bull run and there's the bear run, you lose money, right? But this gentleman has consistently made money, decade after decade after decade. So it's not luck. He's able to understand something which most people don't. He's called the Oracle of Omaha. Oracle, right? Someone who knows much more than other people who can, right? So, and he's not into margin trading. He's not into aaj kharida kal becha, right? He's a value investor. Now, why is he successful? Because he has the ability to foresee what will happen. He looks at an industry and he's able to foresee how will this shape up? Where will this be 10 years from now, 20 years from now? He will study a company and say, yes, this company, he will predict 20 years from now, this is where it will be. And most of the times he's been right. So can we assume that he's a subject matter expert on business models? Definitely, right? He owns three network marketing companies and he's gone on record to say one of the best investments I ever made. He's doing well in all three, right? So coming from him, it's a big endorsement. Bill Gates, all of you know Bill Gates. We use his products. All of us use, right? He has said, if I would be given a chance to start all over again, I would choose network marketing. That is his, confidence in this industry. In fact, in his book, The Road Ahead, this very famous book of his, read it if you get the chance. He's talked about power of duplication, regrets not having used it. So he's a big proponent. He says, makes sense. It's a great industry, right? Stephen Covey. I can go on and on, right? There are lots and lots of experts. Donald Trump. Now, let's not judge him as the US president. Maybe a disaster as a president, but as an entrepreneur, do you know he's a billionaire twice over? As in, he became a billionaire, lost all his wealth, became a billionaire again. Coincidence? No. He is smart when it comes to money, investments, right? So there was this very famous incident. So there's a David Letterman show. David Letterman conducts a talk show on NBC, right? And he was invited as the guest. This is much before he became the US president. And David Letterman asked him, he said, Mr. Trump, what would you do if you lost everything and had to start from scratch? And he said, I would find a good network marketing company, get straight to work and earn millions. And the crowd that was there, you have the audience sitting at the talk show, they were shocked. Some of them started booing him. And he looked at them and he said, that's why I'm sitting here and you're sitting there. So that's his perception, right? Now, and I could, like I said, I could Bill Clinton. So the smartest people on the planet, they are endorsing this business. They're saying it's great, it's the future, right? But the person next door, your next door neighbor, does not have a very positive perception. So let's understand why. There has to be a reason, right? Right. So there are genuine reasons why the perception is not very positive, right? And I'll quickly, cover this. So let's say from an India perspective, and actually for most countries, it started like when I started the business, there was no regulation, right? Now, regulator is very, very important because it stabilizes an industry. It puts in rules, ground rules that everyone has to abide by. So there are no scams, people are protected, the consumer is protected, the company is protected, right? So when I started the business, forget regulation. There was no law for network marketing. We did not know whether it's legal or illegal. There was no law saying it was legal, no law saying it was illegal. So it was very ambiguous, right? So now the lack of a law or regulation means a lot of loopholes in the system. So a lot of scams have happened. People have come, posed as genuine companies under the guise of network marketing, and there have been scams. They've collected money from people and disappeared overnight. And lots of such incidents have happened. starting with the plantation camps in Kerala to, Speak Asia, social trade, lots and lots. So as a result, everyone knows someone who's lost money in some scam. So a lot of people feel that network marketing means scam, right? A lot of companies, when in the early days, in the, let's say, the mid 90s, when in India, a lot of companies were coming in, they came very aggressively with genuine intent, but they made some basic errors, right? And the biggest error they made was they came in, promised a lot to people, but did not create a very strong support system. Now, this business cannot function without a support system. So, what I mean is, once you come on board, is there someone to tell you what to do next, handhold you, teach you certain skill sets, work on your mindset, and help you become successful? So, most companies did not have that. So, a lot of people joined, tried doing it through hit and trial in their own way, and obviously it didn't work. So, a lot of people feel it doesn't work. Another reason why this business has seen a lot of failures is because it's a very low entry barrier business, which means if the entry barrier is low, the exit barrier is also low. In other words, if something is very easy to get into, it's very easy to get out of also, right? For example, let's say you open a fancy fine dine restaurant and you spend 200,000 US dollars, right? 200, yeah, opening that restaurant. And let's say it doesn't work for 2 months. Will you quit the business? No, because there's a lot at stake. You borrowed money from the bank. You very well invested in that. You will work harder. You will you'll figure out. You'll change the menu. You'll hire a consultant. You'll fire the chef. You will do whatever. You'll take the marketing collateral and yourself go door to door and slip it under people's doors. You'll do whatever it takes to make it work because there's a lot at stake. But in network marketing, you know, there is it's very easy to get into. Like in India, 10,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees. Ours is still a slightly respectable startup cost, but people can start with any amount. Now, just imagine you've put in 5,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees to start a business, and you've got value you've got products of that value, right? So, break even actually has already happened. And you go to five people and try telling them about network to join you, and those five people say no. Some even laugh at you. Will you actually go to the sixth person? You say, "Bahad mein jaye, forget it," right? And you'll quit. So, a lot of people have started half-heartedly done it because there was not much at stake. If you had started with 5,000, 10,000 rupees, I can bet my life you would not be listening to me right now. You would not be spending your Saturday, Sunday attending BICC, right? It's because you've put in slightly significant that you're there. But yeah, most companies, you start with a small amount. And so because of this, negative perceptions have been created. Now, what are the common misconceptions of this industry, right? So some people say this is a pyramid scheme. Only people at the top make money, right? And when they say this, you get affected. You say, oh, pyramid scheme, you get scared. So let me bust a myth. It's not a scheme. Yes, it is a pyramid structure. And by the way, a pyramid is the most stable structure known to mankind. It is proven, and every stable organization is a pyramid. For example, does this look familiar to you? This is how an organization is, where probably you work. CEO, senior VPs, AVPs, it's a pyramid. The Indian government, prime minister, cabinet ministers, it's a pyramid. Indian army, you know, every stable structure is a pyramid. So yes, it is a pyramid structure, but is it a scheme? So what is, for you to understand what is a scheme? Scheme means Ponzi scheme that we talk about, where a company says, you give me so much money and you collect money from these people and I'll give you so much back, right? So it's just money. Money is flowing up. There's no value being added. That is a scheme. And that is not sustainable. It will, once the money stops coming in, it will collapse. So all these cases that you've heard of, Speak Asia, social, they were schemes. There was no genuine product, and which is why they collapsed, right? And then there is something called as a product pyramid, where there's a product, but it's an eyewash. It actually doesn't have value. That's also a scheme. It's just that trying to disguise themselves as a business model, genuine business model. And then there is a genuine network marketing model, where it is a pyramid, where value is going down because genuine products are being given, money is flowing up, and in exchange, there's genuine value being created. That is a sustainable model. That is something which will not collapse, right? So, oh, sorry, just a moment. Yeah. Some people say, oh, but this will saturate someday. Again, very big myth. There is no such thing as saturation. There have been, so now you've understood it's a genuine business model. There's value being created. Where does saturation come in? ITC, Unilever, PNG, they've been in existence for donkey's years. Do you think they're anywhere close to saturation? No, it's a structure. You have a distribution. Yes, maybe as our distribution grows and more people are covered, the opportunity may not be as lucrative from a distribution point of view, probably 30 years from now, right? But that's something your grandkids need to worry about, right? For now, enough and more opportunity. But the model will sustain. In fact, people who started now who have a bigger distribution, that means it's more about product sales. So your income will even keep increasing. But yeah, if you enter 30 years later, maybe you will not grow at the same pace. Right? So my time is running out. Let me quickly just cover the important things. Yes, and then some people again say, good model, and you'll hear this from a lot of people. Yaar, very good model, but success rate is very low. Very few people make it. I completely agree. Not denying it. Yes, success rate is low. But please understand, for anything worthwhile in life, success rate will always be low, right? To achieve something significant. For example, how many of you have taken the entrance exam, JEE, joint entrance exam for admission into the IITs? Lots of people, right? 10 lakh applicants, 11,000 seats, success rate 1%, right? Doctors, 4.5 lakh applicants to AIMS, 800 seats, success rate even lower. MBA, CAT, 2.3 lakh applicants, 3,400 seats in the IIMs, right? So if you look, success rate is low in anything worth achieving worthwhile. So going by this logic, your parents should have told you, no, no, beta, don't take JEE. You have a 1% chance. Oh, doctor, forget it. Not possible, right? But these rates, success rates, understand, once you've taken a decision and you put in the effort, there are people who went into IITs, right? There are people who become doctors. Why? Because they put in the effort. So similarly, you'll see a lot of failures. You'll also see success. And the success will always be lower because very few people, now everyone comes to make money, but very few people actually do whatever it takes to become successful. Put in the effort, come, learn, focus, right? As I was listening to Shantanu and he was saying a lot of you are not even listening to me right now. And I'm sure I'm talking, a lot of you are not listening to me right now, right? Distracted with something else. It's important. You need to learn. You need to do your activities daily. You need to keep at it. Be in touch with your uplines, change your mindset. But if you're willing to do everything, why will it not? It's a tried, tested, proven business. You're not the first person who's doing it. It works, right? Let me just skip it. This is a very stupid question. If someone says, is network marketing legal? Don't even bother answering, right? I mean, just laugh. Leave it at that. Okay, so now let me. Okay, so now talked about, now let's look at the reality. Forget the perceptions. People say pyramid, people say this, that. Let's look at the reality today, right? It's a $223 billion industry today. And by the way, these are official statistics coming through the DSA. The unofficial figures are much higher. So 223 billion is all companies who are registered through the DSAs in their respective countries are together doing 223 billion, which is a huge amount, right? That is the kind of turnover. The unofficial figures is anywhere between 500 to 850 billion dollars. These are people who are not, and most companies today are not part of them because it's not mandatory. They're not part of the DSA, right? They don't have the obligation to report their numbers. So the actual figures exceeds 500 billion. In fact, I was reading somewhere, it said it's actually around $850 billion. That's how big the industry has become. Globally growing at 6.7% CAGR. GDP is growing at what? 3.2% globally. Much, much higher. More than double the GDP, right? So many distributors. Indian scenario, 2.51 billion, right? And I was again reading a report just before this, and I was shocked. There was a report which said there's a possibility it will become 21 billion by 2035, 10 times growth almost, right? That's the opportunity. And yes, there are markets where penetration is much higher. Like all the developed countries, 6, 8, 9% penetration they have, which means out of all the people living in that country, this percent is already engaged in direct selling in some form or the other, right? And there are markets which are highly penetrated, like Thailand, Malaysia, Taiwan, 15, 19 to 20%, maybe 21% somewhere, right? Now, guess what the percentage penetration in India is? Less than 1%. Can you imagine? We have a population of what? 150 odd crores, right? And in the last 1 hour that I've been speaking, the population would have grown significantly, and it is going to keep growing. And 1%, less than 1% people are already part of this industry, which means, and same for Vietnam, Bhutan even lower, right? Can you imagine the opportunity? All projections saying this is going to grow big, future, makes sense, right? We are sitting on a, are you realizing you're sitting on that box, which is full of gold, full of precious metals, and you weren't even aware? And I'll tell you another thing that I'm excited by. I had a discussion recently with someone, and someone who's from the industry expert, and we had a long discussion. And he gave me an insight which kind of blew my mind. He said the future is Gen Z, right? Why? Because so right now, all of you understand different. Mindset has kept changing. So our parents were baby boomers. After the industrial thing, they hardcore salaried mindset, salary security, right? Then came Generation X, my generation. Still, again, hardcore salaried. We had grown up believing that, so we continued with that. Maybe explored here, there, but Generation Y a little more different, right? They wanted, they were looking at a fixed plus variable kind of a model, right? Or more of a variable model, flexibility. Now, Gen Zs are very, very different, completely different, right? So Gen Zs comprise 12 to 15% of the current workforce. And by 2035, they will roughly comprise 1/3 of the workforce, 30% plus, right? Now, what do Gen Zs want? If you look at it, they are very, very different from us. Like your children would be Gen Zs, or some of you might be Gen Zs, yes, right? Sorry, I'm assuming everyone's my age. Yeah, so some of you might be Gen Zs. My children are Gen Zs, your nephew. So Gen Zs. They are very, very different. They have very little attachment to traditional jobs. They don't care. I was speaking to this person, my nephew. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I quit my job." I said, "Why have you quit your job?" He said, "I don't want to travel every day and put in 9 hours." Right? He said, "I'm looking for something which I gives me flexibility." And we tend to think of them as lazy, but they're not. They are actually smart people, right? They're efficient. They're very, very efficient, right? And for them, flexibility is very important because they attach a lot of value to work-life balance. Something we couldn't think of because we were insecure. We were dying for security. So work-life balance was nowhere in our, priority list at that point in time. But these people are born that way. They are very clear. I want a work-life balance. I don't want to sit in office 8, 9 hours a day. For them, that flexible remote working, I want to work at my convenience. And like I said, they're efficient. They'll do the work very well, but they want to do it at their convenience. They want flexibility. They want a remote working environment, right? And for them, their focus is actually on entrepreneurial opportunities. Like my son, I speak to him, "What do you want to do?" He says, "I want to do my business. I don't want to do anything else. I don't want a job." There's something that was unimaginable for us. You know, we couldn't have even thought of, well, what do you want to do? Doctor, engineer, someone said astronaut, someone, whatever, but it was all salaried life, right? These people are clear. Most of them, I want my own business, right? And for them, the feedback you get for them, collaborative work environment is very, very important. They thrive when it is a collaborative work environment, which is why they don't like traditional offices where there's cutthroat competition. You're there to outdo each other. Your boss becomes insecure if you're too good. They don't like all that. They don't like the politics, right? They want work together. support each other. That's what gives them a kick. That's what where they thrive. And they focus on learning and development. For them, that is important. I want to learn, I want to develop. Now think of what the Gen Z. Gen Z will comprise one third of the working population 10 years from now, right? What do they want? No job security, not important. Remote flexibility, entrepreneurial opportunities, collaborative work environment, learning and development. Now guess what our business has to offer? Exactly the same things. Flexible working environment. अपने हिसाब से, you work at your convenience, right? Remote working, you can work from home. It's an entrepreneurial opportunity, the best entrepreneurial opportunity possible. You don't need a high setup cost, you don't need fixed costs. Great start. Collaborative work environment, and that I think that is the key difference. Our business is all about collaborative work environment, right? All of you, don't you want your downlines to do better than you? In office, if your reportee is doing better than you get insecure. This guy's going to eat my job. But here, I want my downlines to do much better than me. Why? Because our successes are linked. The better he does, better it is for me, right? So by default, it's a collaborative work environment. We go out of our way, sit with people, help them, work on their mindset, teach them, support them when they're down, sit, counsel them. That's the best collaborative work environment that's possible. And learning and development, yes, this is all about training, learning, development, right? So Gen Zs are the future, right? And I'm telling you, they will come and change the game. So if you're a Gen Z, be happy. If you're not, look for Gen Zs. Get more Gen Zs into the system, because I am telling you they're going to come and change the game, right? So I've overshot my time. I think people have been messaging me. So in the end, so I hope you're realizing that you're all sitting on that box, which is actually full of gold and precious stones, right? All you need to do is open the box. And when I say open the box, you need to start working. You need to believe that and start working, right? So network marketing, I'm not saying it's perfect. No, we are far away. Nothing is perfect. We are far away from perfection. It's just better, right? It is tried, tested, proven. It is the future. But it will not happen on, it needs effort. It needs for you to come and understand, attend every training, be in touch with your uplines, grow, right? Mentally, and be disciplined, put in effort, right? And you will eventually, that's how you open the box and take all the gold and the jewelry. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to all of you. And we will keep interacting hopefully. And I wish you guys all the best. Bye bye.